Welcome to Vigorous Podcasts. I'm Coach Steve, and today I'm joined with Leo Rex from the Leo and Longevity YouTube channel. I'll put up a card right away so you guys can subscribe before we get started. Leo is a full-time biohacker, and as I like to call him, a human database of bodybuilding pharmacology references. Leo, thank you for coming on the channel. I wanted to get you on to discuss fasting from a few different angles. So I want to go over cognition, autophagy, blood work, and fat loss. But first, can you tell me a little bit about your experience with fasting? Because I think you and me are the only two people that actually fast for more than one day in the entire fitness community.
That's very true. Thank you, Steve, for bringing me on your channel. It's an honor. And I love having you on my channel also. I've been fasting for about a year and a half or almost 2 years. The longest fast I ever did was 10 days, and then I ate some fasting mimicking diet, and then I went back. So it totaled like 2 weeks. But usually what I was doing was fasting for a week. And then lately I've been fasting for about 5 days a month with a 1 week long fast every three months. So every quarter.
And that's pretty long. So the longest I've lasted was 6.5 days consecutively, but I've done it like 2 weeks in a row or 3 weeks where I would fast 5.5 days or 6.5 days, eat over the weekend, refeed a little bit, and then do another week of fasting and another week of fasting. But I found that the consecutive weeks, it became less productive in regards to fat loss or blood work changes, because I would do my blood work before, during, after, etc., to see what blood work changes would occur. But I found that the longer you fast, the least dramatic the changes with regards to blood work are. Did you ever do blood work before and after?
Yes,
yeah,
I did.
So let's start there first. Which are the most noticeable things that you notice when you do blood work before and after?
Thyroid crashes, testosterone crashes, IGF-1 crashes and stays lower for a 5-day fast for about a week, 2 weeks or so.
Yeah.
Triglycerides will go down. Cholesterol won't.
Okay.
LDL cholesterol will stay the same for me, at least. I don't know I don't know if I'm missing anything.
Did you notice that your white blood cells go up after 5-6 days?
I haven't been paying attention to that, and I should have. To be honest with you, I should have been, because of the coronavirus and all this kind of stuff. There was a big question, and actually, it's a good topic you bring up. There was a big question about whether fasting will harm your immune system, especially for coronavirus, or not. So when the coronavirus first came out, I stopped fasting for a while. Fasting changes the immune system's behavior, but not necessarily weakens it. It can strengthen it in some parts and weakens it in other parts.
I feel that it strengthens it, but you got to remember, like you're fasting drug-free without steroids because you came off cycle a long time ago, and I'm fasting with performance-enhancing drugs. So I'm on testosterone. So what I see on any kind of anabolics, that my white blood cell count goes down a little bit, and you see that with a lot of guys on performance-enhancing drugs. Their white blood cell count is a little bit towards the bottom of the range because white blood cells have androgen receptors and they respond to free androgens in the blood. Then when you fast, well, what I notice is that they go up to maybe 5,000, 6,000 instead of like 4,500. So they go up by about 1,000. Cells per square meter or square per volume?
Yeah. One curiosity I have actually, this is really interesting. I've never thought about this. Being that you're on androgens, do you notice that IGF-1 crashes for that long, for 2 weeks after like a 5-day fast?
No.
Interesting. Does your IGF-1 crash at all?
It does a little bit, but then again, when I fast, I'm fasting mostly for the blood work changes and the fat loss, right? So we'll get over the fat loss a little bit later, but I do add bodybuilding pharmacology for fat loss. So that's growth hormone, T4, to promote thyroid conversion. So I don't notice that my thyroid goes down, actually goes up. But it also could be because I'm pulsing the growth hormone several times per day to promote a little bit of lipolysis, and that helps with thyroid conversion. So basically we can look at it two ways, like the enhanced way and the drug-free way of fasting.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I've been so curious personally. I've had clients do some things like add thyroid or clenbuterol, things like that. But personally, I've been curious about doing it. I don't want to go back on growth hormone or thyroid, but I really see the advantages. They were talking about optimizing a fast, making the fast, getting the most out of it that you can.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think there's so much room for that, for discussion on that topic, because all of the people who are really obsessed with fasting are not very obsessed with pharmacology, like you and I.
No.
So we have the pharmacology side, and then those guys,
Yeah.
they've been fast. So combining the two, there's so much opportunity to enhance the fast, to make it basically during the fast, certain things happen in the body, and you could potentially make those things happen on the first day. So you don't waste 2 days getting into a fast. You know,
exactly.
Like,
it's the same as with going into the fast on a ketogenic diet, right? You're already in ketosis, so you don't have to deplete liver glycogen and skeletal muscle glycogen to get into ketosis. You're already in ketosis from the day you get started. Even though, let's be honest, most guys, the day before they start, they do a giant refeed because they know it's coming.
I know that's the worst.
It's the worst. You're like, oh, tomorrow I'm going to start 5.5 days fasting, and then I want this and this and this time and this. You eat way too much. So the first day, you're like a balloon.
2 days from that meal.
yeah, right.
I know, I've done it.
Even though you're already fat adapted, so you get into ketosis a little bit. So I noticed that after that, I'm in ketosis like Monday evening. I get into ketosis pretty fast, and that's of course with the bodybuilding pharmacology of the clenbuterol, the GW1516, the growth hormone, the T4, and it's all in little dosages sprinkled throughout the day. But it speeds up the process and it makes it a little bit more tolerable.
We should say that for almost anybody, entering a fast in a ketogenic diet will make the fast more optimal, because you'll, as you said, you have less liver glycogen, so you go past that point quicker. So if you're trying to optimize your fast, you should get into a ketogenic diet at least 3 or 4 days before.
Yeah.
And if you're somebody that has a fat adapted diet in general, but you eat carbohydrates, you'll still do better on a fast than someone who's not fat adapted.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. I usually tell people for a ketogenic diet for 2 weeks to really deplete, because 4 days you're not really depleted, and let's say you don't do the Sunday refeed. If you start fasting on Monday, then it's easier to get into ketosis. So I feel that the first 3 days are easier. So let's just assume people are going to fast from Monday to Saturday morning, right? And then refeed. So the first 3 days are easier because you're already in ketosis. But then the last 2 days, because you started at a lower glycogen state, those last 2 days are tough. And I think because you set the deadline on Saturday, like, Saturday I'm going to eat and refeed and replenish and do my blood work, etc. Then Friday, the day before, it's very difficult, just mentally. Like there's some uneasiness, some unrest, and it could also be because you're stimulated properly by the time for the fat loss.
Yeah, we should also mention one thing, like in really extended fasts, like the one I did that was 10 days and then more days, you can actually get a little bit of a depression. And the reason for that is because if you turn off the mechanistic target of rapamycin completely, you cause depression in the brain. So for example, if people are on SSRIs and they take rapamycin, it just removes the antidepressant effect.
Oh, really?
So the more you shut off mTOR, which is your goal, one of your goals in the fast, the longer, the more potentially you could get depressed, you can have psychological symptoms. So, but the thing is, if you start a fast on a ketogenic diet, you don't have to fast as long. I mean, I go for 5 days because I see the most depression in thyroid and IGF-1 and stuff like that around there, and then it stabilizes. But probably if I was doing a ketogenic diet, I could have done 4 days or 3 days. I don't know.
Yeah, and you notice that the more experience you get with fasting, you just take it day by day, and at one point your body will tell you, like, okay, you've accomplished your goals, and sometimes it's 3 days, sometimes it's 4 days, sometimes 5. Like I did it one time, and I was able to go 6.5 days because I felt good. My body was able to continue. And you just take it day by day. But I feel that when you first get started, you just want to take it a day at a time, because, the first day, the second day is the hardest to go through. And then, you get into deep ketosis and it gets relatively easy. It's, so it's, you listen to your body and then, go day by day, basically towards the end.
Do you want to talk about, I know you have some ideas for topics to discuss, but if you want to talk about you mentioned drugs that aid in the fat loss, especially. There are also drugs that will aid in the autophagy or cellular repair or stuff like that.
I feel that, the autophagy is basically the opposite, because you have to exclude certain things that prevent autophagy. So I feel the growth hormone, clenbuterol, and some of the fat burners, because they liberate so much fat, they produce an energy source for the cells that should be autophagized, if that's the correct term. But if you're not doing that and you're excluding something like N-acetylcysteine or injectable glutathione or something you mentioned on our previous podcast as well, is that I feel that the autophagy is actually sped up. So I'm wondering if your goals is fat loss, and let's say you use a sodium bicarbonate to lower the acidity of your blood, allowing more detoxification into the blood from the cells. I wonder in which protocol is still the best for autophagy. Now, as a bodybuilder, you're scared of autophagy. Like, oh, all my muscle loss, I'm going to lose all my muscle and rhabdomyolysis, etc., which is, not the case if you fast for only 5.5 days, especially if you're on androgens or fat loss drugs. But if you're trying to force or promote autophagy, which is good for a lot of bodybuilders, but they're scared to do it, I feel that there's different approaches. So what is your opinion on this subject?
So first of all, technically autophagy is eating proteins. So technically, the growth hormone and all that stuff, actually, we already know that growth hormone spikes during fast naturally. So I know this is way more growth hormone, obviously, and maybe it does have a anabolic or tissue sparing effect as well. But at the end of the day, autophagy is for proteins, and you're not consuming proteins. So the autophagy should be going on. But what we're talking about in terms of the fasting and longevity, so first of all, from the top down, the way I look at it for bodybuilders, they're always scared about fasting and stuff like that is going to hurt their gains. But they have to understand something. If the way they're eating protein and the way they're taking drugs that cause growth, their cells are constantly dividing. Your cells can only divide for 40-something times before your cell has a dead end. It either turns into a senescent cell, which is like a zombie cell that it causes inflammation, or it dies.
Yeah.
So the point of fasting for a bodybuilder, the way I think of it, if I was still taking steroids, is the fasting is there to stop that growth every so often and tell the body, go and check out like the cells in the body. Are there cells that are messed up that you need to kill?
Right.
Are there proteins that are misfolded that you need to repair? So it's kind of like a cleaning thing. Now, in terms of autophagy and drugs, the way I think of it, there are a couple of drugs that are very attractive for fasting. The first one is metformin, obviously. Metformin has a drawback because it's a mitochondrial toxin, so it limits, your ability to exercise. It may limit the effects of exercise on your health and so on. There's another one called ACAR, which is shorter acting, which is like you find on research chemical websites. Both ACAR and metformin will turn on AMP kinase. They're not that powerful, but they will turn it on. Right. So AMP kinase is a nutrient sensing pathway that senses when your body is starved of nutrients. And that's one of the pathways we really want to turn on with fasting. So if you start your fast, like for example, the day before you take metformin and you take ACAR at night, then you take ACAR the next day in the morning, and you take ACAR every so often during the day, you're turning on AMP kinase before your body even maybe would have turned it on naturally.
Right.
The other drug, the third drug that I'm very interested in is called rapamycin. Rapamycin is a little bit expensive. Obviously, rapamycin is what mTOR is named after. If you take rapamycin, like 5 milligrams on the first day, you totally shut off mTOR.
Totally shut it off, which is a super scary thought as a bodybuilder when you're trying to turn that on 24/7.
That's your enemy as a bodybuilder. You don't want to do it. But think of it this way. What if, maybe every month for a bodybuilder, maybe 2 months, but like say every 3 months, they turn off mTOR properly with rapamycin. They fast for 5 days. Maybe it stays, IGF-1 stays turned down for a week and a half or whatever, but you have so much cellular repair.
Right. Yeah. So what I feel that for the autophagy, because you're recycling proteins, right? Some of the old cells are getting recycled and then the protein needs to go somewhere. So what I found that works very well is you go into the fast in an overtrained state.
Interesting.
So you're overtrained, all your muscles are way back on recovery, right? And now you stop eating. So whatever cells get destroyed in the autophagy process, all that protein gets recycled into the muscle cell. And what I've noticed with myself and a lot of clients is that they look harder, drier, and denser after the fast. Of course, because they lose a little bit of subcutaneous water also. And we're using bodybuilding pharmacology to speed up the fat loss, is that they look way better after the fast than before. And they look, noticeably better, but they also didn't lose any strength. But then on the scale, they dropped a significant amount of weight. And you can see that in blood work where red blood cell count goes down. So those get recycled. That's usually the most dramatic change. And LDL goes down, which are all going through the autophagy process.
You're seeing LDL go down in fast?
Significantly.
Are you serious?
Yeah,
How?
maybe 40, 50%.
But this is only on people on steroids?
Yeah.
That's very interesting. I never knew that, by the way. I've never had a client go and do a blood test properly like I ask usually.
Yeah. So yeah, of course, I always ask them before and after, same blood work markers, same variables, everything, and then let's compare. But it's difficult, and like I'm in a very luxurious position where I can just go anywhere I want to and do blood work on the fly. I don't need to book, an appointment or go through a house doctor or physician. I can just go and do whatever blood work I want.
It's luxurious in a way because you can get your blood work, but if you actually have a problem, you don't have any good doctors in the country.
No, we do. Trust me. No, we do.
Really?
Yeah, in the private hospitals, honestly, the medical doctors here, they all studied in the States. They speak perfect English, or they studied in Australia or the UK. They speak perfect English. They're very helpful. They're not condescending about steroid use. And every time, like my nephrologist ended up being a client.
Really? Very interesting.
I went to my nephrologist several times because my creatinine levels are a little bit higher. But now that I know to check my cystatin C, and that has been declining over the last few years because I added in astragalus. We're going off topic here, but it's interesting. Yeah. So I added in astragalus root extract, right? And I see that my cystatin C is generally declining from 1 milligram. I'm not sure what the range was, but it went from 1 to 0.7. So it's a significant drop considering I increased my muscle mass. My creatinine level stayed a little bit the same. So he started asking me a lot of questions about how I was doing that. And then I do consultations and extra advice with the guy. So he always scheduled 30 minutes extra every time I go to meet him. And now I don't need to meet him for my own advice, but we just meet just to run, ideas past each other.
Actually, I have a couple of doctors as clients.
Yeah.
They tend to be the people that appreciate the advice the most.
Absolutely, yeah, because they in medical school they're still limited a little bit, and especially with the guidelines to keep their medical certificate and their medical license, they have certain guidelines, and when they go off it, even though they find it very interesting, the pharmacology aspect, they're not really allowed to, and then they go. Yeah, see it sometimes in the comment fields. I'm a doctor, and I'm really impressed by the way you pronounce luteinizing hormone, even though I had to take 5 takes, for example.
Exactly. Well, I should mention just to the audience, you guys be aware of kidney failure. If you guys think that it's not a real thing, it's just for IWL or someone else that has it. There are other people right now that everyone listening to this knows about that have just had their kidneys failed, and nobody. Yeah, people you guys don't know about. People's kidneys are failing left and right. YouTubers, other people.
I see it a lot because I ask clients to send me the blood work before they sign up for coaching. And then sometimes you see the creatinine 2, 2.5, or, and all the other kidney markers are completely off, but they're not my size, they're not training that intensely.
Or 5 or 6 creatinine or 20. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, 20 people are failing. People are.
I thought 20 milligrams per deciliter on the creatinine. Oh my God.
I'm talking about the creatinine. That's when you're in total failure, total kidney failure, dialysis. You have to go.
I've seen 6 on a guy that the guy that had the liver hepatomas explode during a set of squats because he had all these little bundles of,
He had 6 creatinine.
Yeah, no, he had cysts, and then his creatinine, liver enzymes, uric acid, like everything went sky high, and it came down within a week. But that's the highest reading I've seen was like 6.5. Creatinine.
Oh, we should mention, by the way, for fasting also, for the audience to know, I forgot the blood marker. Uric acid will always go up. Uric acid will go up whenever AMP kinase is turned on.
But mine and my clients always goes down.
Wow, it must be because of something to do with the lifestyle of bodybuilding and
water. You don't do this dry fasting stuff, right?
Everyone who fasts knows about. Everyone who fasts get this effect that I know about that are natural, which is uric acid raises. In fact, it even happens when you're not fasting. If you take metformin, for example, your uric acid goes up a little bit. This is something to be concerned about because uric acid makes cardiovascular disease more likely.
And gout and that kind of, because it crystallizes it, but it's only a week, so it shouldn't really cause gout within a week.
So that's a good point. So this is another medication that I like for fasting, allopurinol, to control those uric acid levels. If you're fasting as often as I am, and maybe you guys are not experiencing uric acid level, but I am. So every month, 5 days, I'm getting high uric acid levels. It's going to hurt me in the long term. So allopurinol for a short term.
Hmm.
Also an interesting drug.
But when you fast, do you increase your water and electrolyte intake, like specifically your sodium? Do you really like slime the sodium just to make sure that you have enough kidney filtration? Maybe that's.
I take sodium usually by the third day, but I take a lot of magnesium.
Okay.
I don't think that's the reason for the uric acid. When
Mm.
AMP kinase biologically is turned on, it raises uric acid levels. So
Yeah.
maybe you guys are not finding uric acid rising. You're not actually turning on AMP kinase.
Ah.
Yeah. So maybe you need metformin and ACAR to make sure it's happening because you've got
Mhm.
those testosterone
Mhm.
signaling molecules telling you to grow. Maybe it's not turning on.
Yeah, so
Whenever it turns on
maybe
uric
I've
acid,
never done a real proper fast for autophagy. Even though I got so much smaller. Yeah, it could be because you're taking that, rapamycin to actually shut off the mTOR. And so and maybe that's the real one because I have taken metformin several times because you're at the end of the off season, you're lost insulin sensitivity completely, even though you did everything right, to deplete glycogen and not use too much growth hormone or insulin during that time. And then 1 week you fast to reset that whole insulin sensitivity with metformin. Again, another way to speed up that process instead of doing a mini diet. You're severely overtrained, you lost insulin sensitivity, and you stop training for 1 week, and you stop eating for 1 week. Now you restore insulin sensitivity. You've completely deloaded. You had a little bit of autophagy, which probably now talking to you is probably not the case. But at least you're ready to go for another block of off season, maybe 6 weeks, 12 weeks of heavy food and heavy training.
I mean, that's what people are not thinking about. For bodybuilders, fasting could be performance enhancing. Being insulin resistant ruins your ability to gain muscle.
Yeah, you just get fat and bloated and high blood pressure. It's
It's just
very common during the off season.
that's what ruins your off season. So if you
Hmm.
can keep your insulin sensitivity with a frequent fast, every
Yeah.
so often. And by the way, I should mention another thing for the audience. Like when they think about rapamycin, they may Google it and see that it's a medication often used for people with kidney transplants to lower the immune
Hmm.
system and so on. It will not lower your immune system if you take it once a week. If
Yeah.
you take it every day, it will
Yeah, of
crash your.
course. Yeah, but we were talking about one time at the beginning of the fast, just to speed
Yeah,
up the autophagy process. Yeah.
yeah. There's actually a human study that's in the last 3 years using rapamycin at 5 milligrams. They used a few dosing protocols, five
Mhm.
milligrams once a week. It increased the immune system's effects
Ah, okay.
and made them less likely to get colds, which is
Okay.
shocking because it's actually supposed to lower. So it's
Yeah.
not that concerning.
Okay. Yeah. It's usually if you overdo it, and it will lead to adverse effects, of course. So autophagy, it's yeah, the impairment or uric acid not rising might be an indication that it's not really happening for me or my clients.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, so we'll have to make some adjustments to that protocol, even though it does speed up the deload and, of course, restores insulin sensitivity, especially if you have to do it after a very long block of off season with high food intake. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's really useful. I think it's what's missing from bodybuilding.
Hmm.
That's the biggest thing that's missing.
Yeah. So, you have like the visceral fat, right? That a lot of bodybuilders have from prolonged use of growth hormone and insulin and poor insulin sensitivity, and they don't maintain it properly because they're chasing size. Now, fasting is going to deplete visceral fat a little bit, but how long would it take to actually get a small stomach again? I feel you need to do multiple fasts over several months to really get your stomach down, and that might mean that you lose some size because you're doing a 5-day fast multiple times, and during that time you're definitely not making any progress. You might dig into a little bit of precious muscle tissue that you've built along the way. So
True,
it's.
good point. The way I've been thinking about that, so fasting to improve either basically to get rid of visceral fat for people that are either diabetics or bodybuilders with big bellies, is to do. I mean, it depends if you're using drugs or not, but basically the first 2 days of a fast, if you're ketogenic, the first 2 days of a fast, you lose, it seems, the most visceral fat.
Yeah.
So what I've been actually, I've had some people do this is to do 2 days of fasting and 1 day of ketogenic, normal ketogenic light eating, and then 2 days of fasting, 1 day of ketogenic light eating, and keep doing that with the thyroid medication
Right.
and the adrenergic medication to
Hmm.
keep that thing going. So I
Self
think this is the
self-prescribed
fastest.
androgenic medication.
Yeah, like clenbuterol or salme. There's
Salbutamol, yeah.
one that, yeah, it's better. So I think that that's the fastest way to lose visceral fat
Hmm.
and the fastest way to lose fat in general.
Hmm. Yeah.
It's
No,
very.
so I tried that after I was diagnosed with the non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, fasting one day, fasting, but mentally I find it very difficult. I find it easier to fast for 5.5 days straight and then eat over the weekend. And maybe that's a little bit of a culture, like Sunday is eating day, for example.
Yeah, for you.
Yeah, well, I'm in Thailand, so
Yeah.
in the weekend it's time to eat, right? So I found it a little bit more difficult than doing it like 2 days on and one day off, for example, in regards to fasting. So I tried that for 2 weeks, and then I decided, you know what, I'm going to fast for 2 days every week right now to speed up the non-alcoholic fatty liver disease issue. But the longer I go, the more difficult it gets. So now I've been doing this for like 7 weeks, and now what is it? We're Wednesday or Thursday already. So now I've been fasting, Thursday. So this is the 4th day of fasting, and I'm struggling.
By the way, have you done an oral glucose tolerance test?
No, I didn't get a chance to do that yet because last time we talked was after a previous blood work. So I'll do that next time I go to the hospital.
I would be very curious to see. Yeah, are you hyperinsulinemic? But I just want to say something, for the audience to know, Steve. I really think that at least 90% of professional bodybuilders have fatty liver disease.
I think so. Yeah.
At least 90. I'm saying probably, honestly, 95 or 99%.
I mean, I've seen so much blood work with elevated liver enzymes over the years, and you kind of wrote it off as training intensity, but it's not the case. I have several clients now who do this protocol with me to cure non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, and their liver enzymes went down from like 100 to 50, and one guy only got liver enzymes 20 now, and he's on only 20. It's amazing, and he has his gallbladder removed, so he was struggling with issues for years. Yeah, this is a long time ago. So now he's doing a ketogenic diet with, Tatka and a couple other supplements, and his liver enzymes are 20. Came down tremendously. It's unbelievable.
The Tatka really helped him, must be, huh?
Yeah, and he's like 110 kilo bodybuilder, big guy.
It's really nice coaching. I was going to tell you this. I've had more like coaching clients than consultation lately.
Okay.
And it's really rewarding. I gotta say, when someone sends you a message like, you changed my life.
Oh yeah.
Me, it's really, puts me in a great mood. I've been really liking it actually.
No, I know. That's why. I've been doing coaching for 8 years, maybe 10 years now. And especially when you coach people for several years in a row and you see like the progression, it turns into like your own kid almost. It's almost like you see them grow up and they progress and they get physically more healthier, they get bigger, but also financially, they move up in the ladder of life, and you get into a relationship and that kind of stuff. It's very interesting to see, and you contribute part to that. And some guys only stay with you for 1 month, unfortunately, which is a shame, but that's life, I guess. That's the business of coaching.
No, but it's such a meaningful job, like compared to, we both worked in business before. This is like, that was so unrewarding, financially rewarding, but meaningless. Like but when you change someone's life, someone had depression or anxiety or had sexual issues and couldn't perform with their wife or whatever. And that's over and they really owe you a lot. It's really uplifting.
Yeah, no, it's fun to see. So, I do consultations frequently and I've, it's a significant amount of clients, which is way too much, but I'm always.
But consultations are not as fun as coaching, I think.
I like both. Yeah, I like both. Yeah, I like both because 1 hour consultations, you help somebody, you go through all their questions that they have. And then usually there's like 1 or 2 follow-up emails, which is totally fine. And then a month later, it's like, just to let you know, everything is resolved. My blood work is better, or libido is better, or this or that. So you get the same effect, but it's not as involving as a coaching client because that's, constantly chatting, right? They want 24-hour access. So I'm only not available when I'm sleeping or when I turn the phone off around 9 o'clock in the evening where I need to unwind a little bit.
It's true. You're on your phone all the time.
It's a lot of chatting. So do you use WhatsApp or Telegram or Signal? Yeah.
I should be using Signal, actually, but I'm using WhatsApp.
Yeah, so anything will work, and it depends on your client if they,
Signal is safe. Signal is much safer. Signal is like what I use to talk to politicians in the U.S.
Yeah, Signal.
We all just use Signal.
Yeah, also use Signal. So you have desktop applications, and you can just put it on your desktop and use the keyboard to chat. Yeah, you don't have to go through the phone. It's too much.
It's gonna give me like a hunchback eventually, holding the phone like that.
No, I got the same thing, but it's good on the phone because when you're traveling, so let's say you take public transportation, you're not in the car, and you answer like 30 minutes of questions when you're on your way somewhere, and then you get the job done. So even when I'm on holiday, like I went to Pattaya for 2 days, I just tell my clients, listen, I'm going to be away. Let me update your programs on Saturday. Sunday to Tuesday, I'm not available, but I'm, to update programs, but I'm still available as questions. And then Tuesday afternoon, everything comes in, right? People respect your time, but they still need the update before you get back to work.
You send like program version numbers where every time you change it, you send a new program.
I go by date. That's something I learned. It's the only thing I learned in high school or university where you do the date first. So you do 2020, 11/26 dash off-season program for so-and-so. Yeah.
By the way, you and Derek both have this view of college that it was not that useful. Derek also thinks that way.
Yeah.
For me, it was life-changing.
It's the biggest regret of my life.
For me, it was the life-changing. Completely changed my life. It was great. So
right,
beneficial.
Off topic. Let's discuss your life experience with. So why was it beneficial to you?
It changed my life. I mean, basically, I went to an undergrad where some people on the campus were really passionate about their field. Mainly, they were computer science people.
Mm-hmm.
My school was #1 in computer science for undergrad. So the best computer science like nerds were in the school. And some of the professors were like the best in the world in their field.
Okay.
So you would come across like an energy and a passion for learning that you never saw before. I never knew that mathematics was interesting. I was always taught it by rote memorization. I never understood why intellectually it's interesting until I went to Carnegie Mellon. I learned to respect knowledge. I learned to realize one of the funnest things in life is learning a new thing.
Right.
And one of the best ways to be a happy person is to kindle curiosity inside you. So you're always curious and you always love to learn.
Right. And it's a perpetual self-improvement that that is the journey to get somewhere. When you reach the goal, you already lost interest because it was about the road to get there and continuously improve yourself. I didn't experience that on university. I think most of my teachers were failed in business. And that's why they ended up, that's what it felt like. Those people did not enjoy being there, teaching kids. And I felt like all those guys, they had nothing else and they couldn't get a real job in consultancy or IT or whatever. And they just sat there and they were miserable, clearly. I think that's often teachers were miserable.
Especially in a business school. Business academics that like to research organizations tend to be very weird people. They're not the most intelligent academics because it's not that interesting.
Well, if they were good at business, they would be having their own business.
Exactly. They're mainly people that wanted to do business, but studied it instead of doing it.
Yeah. I was a horrible student, so I never really paid attention. And then now, of course, I'm putting, some of the information that I had into practice, and I have my own business and several sources of revenue. But honestly, I think I could have learned everything that I know now by myself on the internet.
I wish I took a chemistry course, though. I regret not doing it. I like some basic science stuff because I'm missing like some basic things. I read so many papers, but I think they're like basic elements of chemistry that I don't. It's not affecting me, but I would like to understand them.
Well, it's not that difficult. I loved chemistry and math in high school, but not in university. I no longer got it, so I was always in the science lab, running experiments that were not meant to be performed. And but the teacher would let me, so that was one of the few teachers that actually facilitated the curiosity. But after university I just realized, like, man, this is not my passion. And I thought I went into it because your parents are like, okay, IT and financial business, that's the way going forward. So you work for you graduate, you work for 4 years, 5 years, economic collapse.
Yeah, that's true.
What are you going to do? I didn't do anything. I traveled for a year just to ride it out because I had enough savings. But then when I came back, there were still no jobs.
True. Yeah, it was a hard time. I was in college when that was happening.
Okay. Yeah, I was
in undergrad, actually. That's when I was learning all those things and being happy was actually at the start of the crisis.
Oh, right. Okay. So so I relearned it by traveling. I said, okay, I'm not going to work. I worked my ass off 80 hours per week for 5 years straight as a junior to, senior consultant, even though I was only 26. And then when I traveled, I realized I'm never going to work for anybody else again. I'm going to work with people, but I'm never going to work for anybody else again. And I did one project when I came back, because there was an opportunity and I didn't want to go let it go. It was a good financial opportunity. So I did one project for 5 months, and then I moved to Thailand.
Yeah, that's the one thing. But working for yourself is really it's really empowering.
It's a giant roller coaster sometimes, but it's it's very rewarding. Yeah, and I think once you have the ability to make money for yourself, nobody can ever take that away, and it's very empowering for sure.
That's true.
Especially for us, like you're doing it with your passion, and I'm doing it with my passion, and like with the coaching and the consultations, and you're changing people's lives. It's very rewarding.
That's the most important thing, is that you live a life with meaning, because meaning is what because life has suffering. Life is not just the way the media portrays it now, that life is supposed to be an amazing journey and you just have no problems.
Right.
People die, there's suffering, there's all of this. But when you have meaning, you can go through any suffering, and life can be, what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas my life had no meaning when I was working private equity. I mean, it's meaningless. I mean, okay, there were companies I was managing for another company, but they provide electricity to Algeria or something like that. I mean, you couldn't feel the change you're making in someone's life.
No, and for me, I think it was a little bit worse, because I would automate companies, from their business perspective, and make it cheaper for them, which meant getting certain departments fired, and it would get 6 months. Yeah, horrible. They would get 6 months severance. That these people would work there for like 40 years already, and I would, young consultant, I would go talk with them. And how are you doing this project, and how are you doing this process? And I would just put it on a piece of paper and replace them with a computer program. This was the IT boom.
Yeah.
I built up a lot of bad karma, I'm sure, but I'm trying to give back to the fitness industry at least.
Unfortunately, I didn't learn as much chemistry as you in high school. I recall, this is actually slightly funny story, is that I had an F in chemistry. It was my. By the way, this is really funny, because in undergrad I had 4.0s for every, for a long period of time. I had a 4.0. So, but in college, in high school, I was a rebellious, delinquent teenager. Yeah. So I was the most delinquent. So the teacher, I didn't know anything that happened in that class. I went there sometimes. I used to sleep in the class sometimes, and then I remember the last month of the class, I had this nice teacher. She used to have a hyperthyroidism. I remember. Oh, anyway, so at the end of the class, I was like, "What is my grade?" She's like, "You have an F." I was like, "Yeah, I know, but don't give me an F. Come on, I need to graduate." So she's like,
you try to go negotiate with the teacher, right? Said, this and that, and please just give me a D, so the average will.
No, apparently she really liked me. She took it from an F straight up with just no she just falsified my record and made it a C. So I was already
the table deals going on there.
She asked me to marry her daughter in the future. I don't know what that meant. All my friends were laughing about it in high school. They're like, "You got to marry the daughter now?"
Was she hot at least?
I didn't see her. I didn't
see her. That's really that's a scary business deal for sure.
Yeah, it was funny.
You get a C, but I set you up for life. But
So we'll go back to fasting for a bit. So. We went a little off topic. We were talking about fat loss. So let's start to summarize. So you mentioned growth hormone. You mentioned clenbuterol.
GW1516, using thyroxine to help with the thyroid conversion when you're using growth hormone. So you see when you do that protocol, if you're pulsing 1 unit, 1.2 units of growth hormone every 4 hours, so 5 times per day, which is 5 units, 6 units per day.
And I should sorry to interrupt. I just want to mention something for the people that are going to use clenbuterol. The reasoning for using clenbuterol, you could also use another drug if you want. You could use amphetamines. Right. You don't need to use clenbuterol. What an amphetamine does is inhibit the reuptake of dopamine. And when you inhibit the reuptake of dopamine actually agonizes adrenergic receptors also. Many people don't know that. It's a ligand for the alpha and beta adrenergic receptors. So even amphetamines will do this. Anything that speeds up your system. So if you like to be on clenbuterol and have shakiness and anxiety, sure. If I was you, I would be using an amphetamine, because I'd rather have a little bit of fun, a little bit of drive.
It's in Thailand, it's a death sentence, so there's no amphetamines yet. Yeah.
Oh, no way.
Dubai, ephedrine is because they think it's the underground drug. So if you ever get tested, you're fucked. So it's not.
Oh, I meant like Adderall or something like that, but that's shocking.
Same.
No way, huh? It's because of the amount of amphetamines in Thailand and Philippines, right?
Yeah, it's so clenbuterol, even though it's of course not FDA approved, it's a lot less risky on the legal side than an Adderall or ephedrine. It's I always tell people here to stay away. Also Dubai, Kuwait, all those countries, Philippines, it's anywhere in the Arab countries or Asia, it's very risky.
Yeah. Yes, Arab countries also. You cannot get Adderall in, for example, Dubai. Yeah. It's not. Actually, you can get extended release dextroamphetamine in Dubai if you're there.
All right, but that's probably on prescription then for obesity.
You can get Concerta also, which is a methylphenidate like Ritalin, which really will work also.
I really don't like that compound.
I hate that compound. I hate it. It gives me anxiety.
Yeah. I do like modafinil though, so maybe we can jump to the cognition part. So for the fat loss, I add in the thyroxine because so many small pulses of growth hormone to promote fat loss, of course, upregulates thyroid conversion. And if you don't have the thyroxine, the T4 in there, you would simply deplete serum T4 concentrations, no matter how much iodine or selenium or vitamin K you take. But I'm on that protocol year round. 2 units of growth hormone, 100 micrograms of T4. So that protocol doesn't really change. Yeah.
I didn't know that. Oh, yeah. That should make sense.
Yeah. So my thyroid is always in range, whether I'm dieting or the off season or regardless of caloric intake. My thyroid stimulating hormone, free T3, total T3, T4, free T4, etc. It's always right around in the middle of the range, regardless of what I'm eating.
And adding in thyroid hormone should not even reduce the autophagy. In fact, if anything, it should increase it.
Yeah.
Because increasing the cellular stress and the stress on the body. So exactly. And I know you thought growth hormone may impede autophagy. You may be right, but I'm not necessarily sure it does. I'm not completely sure.
Yeah, I'm not really sure if it goes through the cell division because of course it promotes cell division, but then again, you're not having any nutrients to facilitate it.
Yeah, and the mTOR is turned off.
Yeah, it's turned off, but you do cause lipolysis, and that's quite significant, especially when you combine it with clenbuterol and a little bit of moderate activity just to burn through it, and you're already in ketosis. So you basically turn yourself into a fat burning machine.
Especially visceral fat, actually.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so that's a great idea.
So the only thing that I see that goes up a little bit, but my triglycerides are always low, and most of my clients as well, because they take carnitine, year round, is that sometimes the triglycerides go up a little bit on the last day or when you do blood work on fasting. Yeah, because you create so much lipolysis and the free form fatty acids in the bloodstream and the triglycerides. It's like a 10% increase. So they go from 40 to 50, for example.
These are very different blood test results than natural people are having.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, because we're using so much pharmacology to speed up the fat loss and improve the blood work. I think. Yeah, I think that the autophagy is probably minimal now that you mentioned the uric acid, because I've never seen that increased.
Oh, it has to increase. If AMP kinase is on, it has to. So
yeah,
it could be. You guys are not even doing autophagy.
No.
You need rapid acid. You guys need 5 milligrams.
Autophagize the fat cells, and I did a ton of autophagy. No,
Hey, let's mention to the guys listening, why would autophagy be useful? Just so people can get an idea of it. And we're talking about cognition next. So think of Alzheimer's disease. Alzheimer's disease is a disease in which these kind of proteins called beta amyloid plaques, they develop in the brain. These are actually misfolded proteins. What happens and by the way, these proteins cause oxidative stress, free radicals in the brain, which causes the immune system to send pro-inflammatory cytokines in the brain. And eventually this causes cellular loss in the brain, neuronal loss. And eventually they lose too many neurons, they can't function properly.
Yeah.
What is autophagy? It's taking these misfolded proteins, these messed up proteins, and reusing them. So you don't end up with these kind of proteins everywhere. It's the case in Alzheimer's disease. It's also the case in Parkinson's disease. There's a different kind of protein. It's called alpha-seno something. That's the initiator there.
I think with Parkinson's, or was it Alzheimer's, that the brain also loses insulin sensitivity, and that's like type 3 diabetes?
Yeah, it seems to be in a lot of neurodegenerative diseases that the brain has glucose metabolism problems.
Yeah. And in
fact, nasal insulin is being used to treat Alzheimer's disease patients.
Oh, that's prescribed now? I remember Tony did a video with a guy that took it nasally because they want to snort everything, right? But I guess it's now medicine.
Yeah, the nasal reason is actually I mean, it could be used for other reasons for insulin, but the nasal approach is used a lot for Alzheimer's disease and
Hmm.
Parkinson's disease patients because some molecules, if you take them orally, they're going to be such high levels systemically, but they're not going to
Hmm.
be enough in the brain.
Yeah.
If the nasal formulation is a nanoparticle, it
Yeah.
will not only stay on the inside of the nose, like, for example, cocaine or something like that, but
Mhm.
it'll actually go up and enter the brain.
Okay.
The brain is exposed at the top of the nasal canal. It's called the
Yeah.
olfactory
It's
bulb.
more porous, right? So regardless of the amount, the kilodalton weight, like for dermal creams, for example, like testosterone cream, anything below 500 kilo or 500 daltons of molecular weight is able to enter the skin, but over that, it's not able to because the particle size is too big or too heavy.
I didn't even know about that. That's
Yeah.
exact same process.
But
So if you have a nanoparticle and
mhm.
you take it nasally, it'll actually go into your brain. So
Yeah,
that's why they want to deal with the glucose problems in the brain directly.
because I think insulin is 7,000 daltons and growth hormone is 23. Or they have three different forms: 22, 23, 24. So they're huge compared to testosterone. But I know that in the nasal capacity, it's more porous and actually allows it to pass through because that's how you smell. It actually passes through the membrane that's there and then attaches.
I had no idea about that. That's really
Yeah,
interesting.
I'm from Holland and I have to know these things.
So basically, yeah, the size of a molecule will limit its ability to pass through the
Mhm.
blood-brain barrier. But also genetic polymorphisms will affect people. Like people
Yeah.
have different kinds of integrity of their blood-brain barrier. In fact, it's a gene called ABCB1, something like that, that really affects people.
Yeah, I think that when I was researching that, I saw that there's certain enzymes or things that prohibit the blood-brain barrier and allow certain particles to enter, and some particles that don't enter. It's interesting, but I think for cognition effect, it's very very interesting to see what could improve the cognition and what doesn't. Uh,
Were you wanting to discuss cognition in regard to fasting or
yeah,
generally?
yeah,
Okay.
because what I noticed, and like most people, after a few days of fasting, whether they're in ketosis or not, cognition goes down, and it doesn't matter if you force that with modafinil or any other nootropic. I think by the third day, fourth day, you get like a little bit of built up anxiety, where you want to eat, like you're restless, and maybe it's because the ketones are so high, or again because you're stimulated out of your brain because you're taking modafinil, clenbuterol, and whatever. And I'm wondering if there's a way around it because that's always prevented me from going further, is because I lose productivity towards the end.
So, first of all, I don't think that it's not the ketones because actually, like being in a ketogenic diet improves cognition,
Yeah.
lowers. First of all, the ketogenic diet, as everyone knows, was created for epileptics at Johns Hopkins University.
Mhm.
Epileptics are people who have reduced GABAergic signaling naturally.
Mhm.
GABA is a main inhibitory neurotransmitter. It's like what Xanax works on. So, in a ketogenic diet, actually, people's brains are calmer, they think better, they have better memory, they have better recall, and so on. So it's not, I don't think it's the ketones. And I've noticed exactly what you're talking about also. For me, it happens on a very long fast, like after a week
Yeah.
or more than a week, it starts to come. And basically, the feelings that I get are like a sort of depressed state mentally
Mhm.
and problems with mental drive. Like the brain is not working very well.
No. Hmm.
What I think is happening, I think this is because of mTOR being shut down too hard. When
Hmm.
mTOR is, like I described to you before, if someone's taking SSRI and you give them rapamycin and turn off mTOR, the SSRI's antidepressant effect is gone.
Yeah.
That means that mTOR has to be turned on in some way to get neurotrophic effects in the brain.
Hmm.
So what may be happening is that there are no neurotrophic effects in the brain.
Hmm.
Maybe serotonergic or other neurotransmitter activity is decreased.
Right. Hmm.
And so there's not, and when you take like modafinil or amphetamines or whatever, what's happening is you're increasing dopaminergic signaling,
Hmm.
adrenergic signaling, and glutamatergic signaling. You're
Hmm.
basically making your brain more excited. But if
Yeah.
those transmitters are not being synthesized,
No.
or if you do not have neurotrophic factors, you're going to end up in that kind of anxious and not being able to think very well state. Either way.
Yeah. So I do take 5-HTP. I take that year round to increase my serotonin intake because I feel that I don't produce enough naturally based on my medical history of my family. So I take that year round, 100 milligrams of 5-HTP, and it keeps the mood going. But I'm not taking any GABA. I do take choline, get it from my diet. So
By the way, I wanted to let you know, if you want to get GABA into your brain, there's actually a GABA called GABA. I forgot the name, but it's on Cosmic Nootropic. It's a GABA that's attached with niacin to get it into the brain.
oh,
So yeah, it's been there for a long time. You can get GABA into the brain. You just add niacin to it. So it's a molecule joined together.
and
It's
it's
very
probably a
interesting.
non-flush formula then.
Yeah, it has to.
So the
Hopefully.
niacin is bound to the GABA, and it's like the free-form niacin that flushes everything out.
But personally, I wouldn't. I love 5-HTP. Look, it's not
Mhm.
that I have something against it. I don't want to take an SSRI. It's just that 5-HTP is not. First of all, we don't know that it increases neurogenesis for
Mhm.
sure. There's no. It probably does, but we're not completely sure. But more importantly, systemic serotonin levels are strongly associated with liver tumors, for example, and with fibrosis of the heart.
Yeah,
So my goal is always to at least just try to limit the serotonin increase to the brain,
right.
personally.
And that's why you're taking an SR. You're taking SRI?
Yeah, I only take an SSRI for neurotrophic factors,
Okay.
only for that serotonergic effect, and it is
Mhm.
extremely helpful.
Okay.
Yeah, for my health. It's extremely.
Which one
But
are you taking? Because there's so
I
many.
take Yeah, I take fluvoxamine. Fluvoxamine is unique because even though it is less of an inhibitor of SERT, the serotonin transporter, it's
Mhm.
a very potent agonist of the sigma-1 receptor. The
Mhm.
sigma-1 receptor in the brain, when it's agonized, increases dopaminergic activity.
Okay.
So it'll increase your ability to feel like, it'll decrease your anhedonia. For example, like if you don't get excited when you're doing things, you want to
Mhm.
agonize the sigma-1 receptor. What
Mhm.
agonizes it? DHEA sulfate,
Yeah.
for example. But in terms of drugs, fluvoxamine, something. Look, if people are like they have a lot of drugs and they want to do fasting, you may consider donepezil. Donepezil is a potent acetylcholinesterase inhibitor, and also a sigma-1 agonist, potent sigma-1 agonist.
Right.
The main medication given to Alzheimer's disease patients who have memory problems.
Right.
So if you take donepezil combined with Adderall, and by the way, whenever I mention amphetamines, I'm talking about low doses because
Of
dopamine is a
course.
neurotoxin.
Yeah.
If you use high doses, you're going to end up on the street with no teeth, So,
Yeah.
so don't
Yeah.
do that. I'm talking about 5 to 10 milligrams. So
Yeah.
that combined with donepezil really is very effective because
Okay.
you increase that dopaminergic activity, that glutamatergic activity. You get that energy, and then
Mhm.
on the other side, you really potently inhibit acetylcholinesterase,
Okay.
which I'm sure people know about that. And then the other thing is the sigma-1 agonism. So they work synergistically together.
Okay, so that's better than supplementing one of these,
Exactly.
neurotransmitters by themselves. You just increase the production in the brain and then selective on the receptor where it should be.
Exactly. What I'm trying to say is I think donepezil is probably going to be more effective for people than the most potent herbal acetylcholinesterase inhibitors like ginkgo biloba,
Mhm.
berberine, bacopa monnieri, huperzine A.
Yeah.
Those are the herbal ones. I take all of those combined on a daily basis.
Mhm.
But if you want to be very effective, maybe during a fast, you could use donepezil in case your work, for example, demands it or
Right.
something.
Yeah, because sometimes you take one of these nootropic formulas, and I know that huperzine A and a couple of these things that you mentioned are within Derek the Gorilla Mind supplements.
That's true.
Yeah.
Derek's supplements have a lot of these. His supplements work on the cholinergic system very well. Also, they do that exact thing.
So they're very good to take on a fast, and then sometimes I take them, during the week when I need a little boost of, cognition. Yeah, I can't take them daily, of course, because the huperzine A saturation would be a bit too much.
Look, what I would say about that, I don't think huperzine A can be neurotoxic, and the reason why, its
Mhm.
affinity for the glutamate to NMDA receptors is not that strong. So
Mhm.
what happens is it will block it, it will antagonize it, but it'll have to be in high molecular weights to be able to do that, and it
Mhm.
will quickly unantagonize it, like get off the receptor when glutamate comes in.
Yeah.
But if you have something with a very strong affinity like PCP or ketamine,
Mhm.
those ones, they will block both signal and noise. What you
Okay.
want to do to limit your brain's degradation over your lifetime
Mhm.
is limit the glutamate noise, limit that low-level glutamatergic signaling that
Right.
is not
Yeah, that builds up over time.
that builds up oxidative stress in the brain and so on. But you want the signal, and if you block too hard, you won't get the signal, and that's neurotoxic.
Yeah.
So I'm not too concerned about huperzine A. By the way, Derek sent me the supplements also. I've been wanting to take them,
Mhm.
but I've been scared of the adrenergic, excitatory results from the Gorilla Mind stuff. So I'm going to take them in the next few
start
days.
low, like 1 tablet per day instead of the recommended dose of 3 tablets. You just take one. I mean, I take 1 tablet.
He gave me one very strong one though. I want to try it out. It's
the Gorilla Mind Rush.
Yeah. You have it too?
Yeah, of course. I have all the supplements here. Yeah.
How is it? That's the one I want to try.
I can take 2 or 3 tablets because it has caffeine in it, and I do enjoy my coffee, so that I have a compounding effect. So I have my coffee, and then maybe a little bit later in the day, I have the Rush as a continuation. But I prefer the smooth. But I take that as a pre-workout because it gives you so much drive. 3 tablets of Gorilla Mind Smooth, it give you so much drive with the Gorilla Malt Nitric pre-workouts that the workouts are legendary. And I told this to Derek personally. It's I'm training at, it feels like I'm on 3 times the amount of androgens. Even though I maxed out my off season at 450 milligrams of steroids combined.
Wow, really?
That was it. That's all I needed. But because of the pre-workout was so powerful, and my workout capacity was an all-time high. And my food intake was high too to facilitate the recovery. But I was surprised,
You're not scared about the mercury from all that fish you're eating? Because that does increase cardiovascular risks.
Yeah. I'm taking the EDTA supplements now, the calcium D-sodium EDTA, to reduce heavy metals in my body, take that daily. And that's how to decrease my serum iron intake a little bit. So I'm a little bit cautious to reduce it even further, because otherwise you get these weird, red blood cell counts, right? Your red blood cell goes sky high, mean corpuscle volume goes high, but your mean corpuscle hemoglobin goes down, and because your oxygen carrying capacity reduces when your iron is that low. And I've seen it 100 times on blood work with people that take steroids. They don't get enough iron and vitamin B12 in their diet, and their complete blood count is all over the place.
Very interesting.
So that's what I'm a little bit worried about. Yeah, I should eat a little bit more varied. I just always had this digestive issues, and Thailand is a great place, but for food, it's a nightmare.
Unless you care about your health, then it's great.
Yeah, right. So I get everything imported, but I should eat them a little bit more varied. That's for sure. It's just difficult with all the digestive issues that I have, and I should try that peptide. What is it called? PT-14.
What is that?
There's a peptide that helps with the gut microbiome.
Oh, if you want to deal with the microbiome, I highly recommend sodium butyrate.
Yeah, I saw that video. I was thinking.
Oh, yeah. This is really effective, really useful, really great supplement. But can I ask you something? Are you supplementing selenium in any of your minerals or anything?
Anymore. I was before, but right now, because I'm eating so many Brazil nuts, that I'm already getting 600 micrograms of selenium.
Okay, because the selenium is associated with NAFLD for sure. Yeah. So but the other thing I want to mention, we didn't mention this on our discussion of fatty liver on my channel, but the coffee, I don't know if we mentioned that, but coffee is one of the things that is most associated with liver health.
In a good way or a bad way?
A very good way. Okay. And
otherwise you would break my heart if you say that coffee is associated with non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. No. I would have to find my gun and just end it, because
both coffee and caffeine are actually, turns out, very healthy for people who are.
Thank God.
But so we should do another video on maybe do it on your channel or on my channel. We should do 2 videos, right? We should do one, the drugs that bodybuilders should consider using prophylactically to protect themselves on cycle, and the supplements that bodybuilders should consider taking while on cycle.
Yeah.
Like, we could discuss them, and throw around some ideas. I think people would really enjoy that.
I think so too. And we could just launch it on both channels and see who gets the most views.
Like, what we should do is have a series that's split, that every week goes to the different channel.
Yeah, we can. Yeah,
that would be cool, right?
Yeah, we're totally fine. Yeah.
Okay,
I hope Nick Trigili is not going to be upset if you're, changing the.
We got to get you on the Nick podcast once. Also, I really want to start getting on a third person sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So we got to get you on as a guest.
Won't be the third wheel, right?
No, because when you have 3 people, it's like more natural conversation. Yeah. There's not as much pressure to fill in like gaps in speaking and so on.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, sure. I'm always willing to come on, man, for sure.
But 4 is too much. I noticed that when there's 4 people.
Did you see that last? Man, I had to turn it off. It turned into like an argument war about nothing.
Well, it's not Fuad's fault. Cedric he's hard to listen to. I mean, he's a nice guy. I respect him so much, really, but he's so hard to listen to. He's like Kai number 2.
Yeah, but
You
he
know,
was
Kai just
more
starts
into
talking.
himself, you know, more, how do you say this? What is the word for it? What is the American word for it? He's like very
Perspective.
internal. Yeah, introspective. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a nice guy, but that was a funny. I turned it off. I was like, I don't
No,
understand
I
what they're
didn't
arguing
watch it.
about.
The same as the carnivore guy. He started talking about testicles, and then I had to turn that.
Yeah, at the end of the carnivore thing, the guy got too ridiculous, but none of that was
I didn't
fun.
make it that far. In the beginning, it's like, I was eating testicles and this and that. I said, okay, I'm going through PCT right now. Yes, my testicles are on fire, but it's too much for me. And I've sat through a lot in my life as a coach.
Look, the nutrition world is a home for many people that have undiagnosed mental illnesses that go. No, it's true. I swear, it's true. Huh? You see people that are just so passionate about some views they have, so like religious, almost
Yeah.
religious.
Mm-hmm.
Like either meat is the devil, or meat is amazing, and plants are the devil, and it's so very extreme. People don't want
Like,
to.
like Nandrolone only.
Yeah.
I love GTI. You're a funny guy.
By the way, that got a huge following. It turned out you're right that there's a huge following for the Nandrol
Yeah.
only.
No, because Tian Clark said helped them so much, and those guys it turned to a little bit of a cult, and that's why he calls it the camel cult. Because those guys, you change their lives. To be fair, the hair loss is gone, and all their issues, and the water retention. So, and the cognition improves, but I think it's a very small percentage of the people that actually tried it.
We got to have you on my channel also to talk about skincare also for people, because I've never had acne, so I've never really researched it much. You're the that's small because you're obsessed with.
Yeah, I threw it out the Accutane right away when I saw non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. I'm like, okay, that one, go on.
It could have been the cause, by the way. That's such a.
Yeah, but my wife ran Accutane also the same dose, 10 milligrams 3 times per week for longer than I have. That's actually how we got onto it. And she has her liver enzymes like 20 to 30.
Well, NAFLD is more common in men apparently.
Yeah,
which doesn't really make sense.
Higher androgens, and all the fuck. I took a boatload of performance enhancing drugs for 8 years, and even though it's been conservative, it's not been. What is the difference between conservative and moderate?
It's not been too moderate, huh?
Yeah, it's not. It's like it's been conservative, but I've also had periods where it's just. During a cutting phase, it's like you throw the fucking kitchen sink at it,
Well, I think you're officially the first bodybuilder who's ever discussed having fatty liver disease ever, which is really cool because I think probably all bodybuilders who are very big have a bit of fatty liver disease.
I think it hurt my business a little bit because I haven't get so many coaching requests since I opened up about it. But it's
it really shouldn't actually. It should make your audience realize how much of an honest person you are. Man, there are people, like I said, there are people on kidney failure that are on YouTube right now that nobody has any idea.
That everything is going okay. To have clear signs of insulin resistance or diabetes or kidney failure, and they keep going. I get the blood work all the time, and I thought about it for about a day. When I contacted you privately, I was like, should I post this? And I was like, you know what? Because if I help one person with this, even though the progression so far hasn't been that astounding, at least I'm being honest about it. And I'm the guy that has always been about health since the very beginning. And I take full responsibility what I do to my own body, and I don't put my head in the sand. So I might as well open up about it. And if I can help one person in the process, okay, so be it. And if I get 1,000 weird messages about, oh, you stay on hormone replacement, hey, you should do this and that, and hey, at least I'm being honest about it, Unlike 99% of the fitness industry out.
That's what I'm saying. There are people, everyone's lying. Everyone puts a rosy picture in front of themselves. And let me tell you that I'm almost certain like 95% of pro bodybuilders at least have fatty liver disease, but
or something else going on with their body. And it's all about the training.
Exactly. And if a normal person got like what you experienced, which was like slightly elevated liver values, they told you they would think, oh, well, I read about fatty liver. 40% of Americans have it, so it doesn't matter. I don't need to tell people. A lot of people have it. But you're a perfectionist. Yeah, you're a perfectionist, and you genuinely care about your health. So you're like, I'm not accepting this.
No,
we're going to use it as a case study.
Right. Yeah. So and I open up, and some of the medications that I took might have not contributed, like the metformin. I don't think that was helpful. because I took that for 6 weeks straight. So my IGF-1 reduced to like 67 nanograms per deciliter, even though
Really?
it was, yeah.
Did you take I don't know what else we were talking. Oh, ezetimibe. Did you take ezetimibe?
I added it in later. No, it was not as in, what was it? Yeah, I added it in after the last blood work. That's the cholesterol medication, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I added that in
It's
10
not.
milligrams per day. I kept the berberine in. I reintroduced citric bergamot. So I'm really wondering where my total cholesterol levels are at now.
Yeah, I mean, I would use the ezetimibe. I mean, in case your cholesterol is too low or you're having brain issues, the ezetimibe has been shown to cause fat lipolysis from the liver,
Yeah.
which makes sense, sort of, huh? Because it's preventing the liver from being able to get cholesterol from the bile,
Mm.
preventing the liver from being able to digest cholesterol, dietary cholesterol. So it's quite useful, I think.
What I'm wondering, like in my genetic makeup, I've got so much blood work over the last 20 years because I've been doing blood work since the very beginning of bodybuilding. And I always see that my triglyceride levels are low, always. They maybe go up to 70, the highest, but they're always like 30 to 35. So I'm wondering if the fatty liver comes from the lack of fat that is exiting my liver into the bloodstream, being able to be burned off as body fat. And I always struggled with fat loss because maybe the signal from body fat through the liver to get cleaved off to short triglycerides, maybe that doesn't function correctly. Like I really had to kill myself just to get down to like 6% body fat. And then beyond that, it was almost impossible to function. That's why I never really pushed it further because I turned into a complete zombie.
Wow, interesting.
So that's what I'm wondering. And, in my family, nobody's healthy. Yeah, really, man. In my family, like when I look at my parents, my sister, and everybody else in my family, they're all slightly fat and, drinking and smoking and that kind of stuff, recreational stuff. And it's one of the reasons why I'm here in Thailand, right, to escape from it. But it's so when I look at my genetic makeup, I think that I already had the lottery of not doing it, getting it the most healthy approach from the beginning. And then
there's one polymorphism that I'm sure you don't have it. You most likely don't have it. It's very common with Latin Americans. But there's one polymorphism that is so strongly associated with NAFLD. It's insane. It's like, yeah, I could check it for you if you have your 23andMe. I could send you.
I should do that also. It's
yeah, you probably don't have it, but I was gonna mention something in the Netherlands. Since you were mentioning the Netherlands, I discovered you guys have like you guys have organized crime there, huh? Which starts with the letter P.
No comment.
There is. I saw it on Wikipedia. Of
course we do. It's everywhere, man. It's organized.
No, but there's like a Dutch kind with a name. It starts with a P, like a Penos or something like that. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I have no idea. I haven't.
I'll send you the wiki link afterwards.
Yeah,
that's cool.
I haven't. Honestly, I don't follow Dutch news anymore because I have like a little bit of a bitter taste.
Yeah.
Enough about Holland. And now.
Oh, what about Dubai? What's the news about moving to Dubai?
No, I'm not going to do that because we just bought a house here, and I'm not going anywhere.
Oh, you did just buy a house?
Yeah, last year. It's yeah, man, it's huge, 200 square meters. I'm not sure how much square feet that is, but I should do some decoration because this is all white wall. Let me give you a little tour. So that's the closet and my studio light and all my wife's trophies.
Oh, wow. Cool place.
Yeah. So that was actually a wall. So we had that kicked out and then put the kitchen on the second floor. So we're on the second floor now. The first floor is all home gym.
Oh, really? I used to have a home gym.
Go anywhere. I got a kitchen right here, toilet right there, and my studio, my office, and then a home gym. During COVID, I didn't leave the house for a whole week.
You built yourself a fortress.
Yeah.
Like kids when they build forts.
Yeah, exactly. And I got, downstairs, I got, mesh on the what is it called, on the windows, it's like a 10-second mesh. So people need 10 seconds more to break in, but it's enough to discourage people. And I got CCTV all around the house. And I got 2 street dogs who are very friendly with me. This is Thailand. They're very friendly with me and they consider me the owner, but they're not friendly to anybody else. So whenever somebody comes by, the mailman or something, I have to teach them that the mailman is a good guy, but anybody else, they start barking, So I got my security in place, man.
That's funny. Hey, if you ever want a purebred, like really high level German Shepherd, one day I'm gonna have my dog's gonna have puppies. I could send you one. It's the best breeding. This dog is
To
unbelievable.
be honest, I'm not a dog person, and I'm sure I'm going to lose half my subscribers by saying that.
Yeah,
I'm a
people
cat.
hate.
I'm a cat person, but I have allergies. I've
Oh
asked.
wait, you're allergic to dogs but not cats?
No, I'm allergic to any kind of pet, but unless it's like one of those short-haired cats, the Swinks cat, which I was thinking about getting, but I'm so busy. I'm so busy with clients and work and business projects, and I don't think I have the time to even play with kids or play
Don't worry.
with cats, that kind of stuff. So
The cat will not be interested in that much. They do their own thing, so it's not
yeah,
gonna take the
I
time.
don't think the low maintenance pets that just sit by the window and just look at the
Yeah,
neighborhood, right? But I think when in their younger years, the first year, they're very playful. And then the last 13 years, they turn into a statue, basically. Just looking outside, oh, what's going on? Oh, it's time to eat. And then sleep again. So I wish I had the time, man. It's time management is forever an issue with me. And like I told you, I hired my wife, right? Just to help me with all the back end stuff.
wow,
Yeah,
really?
with the
Yeah, that's
editing and
true.
stuff. Yeah. So we keep it in the family, of course.
I've been noticing you've been doing thumbnails lately.
Yeah, that's my wife.
That's great. It was a great. I mean, such great thumbnails. I mean, they're really
Yeah,
great.
as I said, I need camels and horses and a little outline and then Boldenone and DHB, and then I turn
I
into
didn't know Boldenone was used
right?
on camels either. I just listened to your video. I had no idea it's used on racing camels.
Yeah, that's where I started that it's prescribed for. And when you go to the sources for horses and camels, you'll find Boldenone there, but it's only 50 milligrams per liter. And then you find injectable cardarine and Pentosan Gold and all that stuff. That's all for camels and racehorses.
You'd be surprised in Dubai how much people care about camels. It's like
I know, I've seen it.
it's like as interesting to common conversation as discussing cars.
Yeah, yeah. I think there's whole breeds out there, for the main and just make it, same as with horses in Europe, right? They love those horses, and then they're millions of dollars,
Yeah,
millions of euros. Those horses, they're purebreds and they're huge, and like the horses I rode in Mongolia, they're like this tall. They're almost like
really
a donkey. Yeah, you could just jump on.
fascinating.
And then I saw camels somewhere in the desert there, and those horses were scared to death. And I realized, like, wild camels, so not bred, wild camel, huge,
Really interesting.
huge. They were taller than I was sitting on a horse.
Wow,
We
really?
had to go out. We came across a mountain. Funny story. We came out of the hill across a little mountain, and there was like a herd of camels on a herd of horses, right? So you have two pack horses, 5 horses to drive and a guide, and the 2 Israeli guys that I was with. So we were going around the corner. You see these camels, and the horses were startled right away, like they were going to get kicked. So we had to almost bypass them with 300 meters.
And those are the two hump camels, right?
No, one hump.
Oh, one hump?
Yeah,
I wonder where the two humps are, because we have one humps in the Arab world.
I think they're. Where are they? These were one humps. I think that
How?
whole area, like that, when you look at the map from the Arab countries right into the Gobi Desert and a little bit up north, that's all the one humps, and maybe the two humps are a little bit more south.
How was Mongolia? I've always wanted to visit Mongolia. How is it
One
like
of the
for you?
most impressive countries I've been to, hands down.
Wow.
Mongolia and Bhutan, yeah, made the most impact on me. It's still culturally enriched. The people are super nice. Last time I went to Mongolia was 3 years ago, and their English literacy went up significantly. Like when I went there 10, 11 years ago, there was almost no literacy. So you go by, the worst English you could, try to communicate, and you would get nicknames, and in a little instruction booklet, this is Mongolian, this is what it means in English. Good luck.
Wow, that's
But
so interesting.
now it's a lot better, or at least in Ulaanbaatar it was a lot better. And in Bhutan, it's the literacy is very, very good. They all go to international school, and they all speak English. Yeah,
Very interesting. I really want to visit there.
yeah,
It's good you've done so much traveling at an early stage in your life. I mean, I have an idea, when people
yeah.
leave that traveling to later, it I don't think it's always a good idea. It's better to travel
Well,
younger so you know what's out there.
if you're settled down, it's impossible, and you experience traveling much differently if you're in a relationship. So I was single, and I've always been a bit of a loner. I like to do things by myself. So when I traveled, yeah, you just wake up, you do your own thing, and then you meet a little people for commerce, and it's buying food or stuff that you need across your travel. But it was very shallow. The contact was very shallow. It was for an entire year, and honestly, I enjoyed it a lot.
I'm like you. I can do that also.
Yeah, it's but I think in a relationship, the pace is a little bit different because I like to do adventure stuff. So I would rent motorbikes and do the most crazy things, man. It's just drive through the borders, and I went to Myanmar without any valid passport or anything. Visited Shan State Army, and it's shit you shouldn't be doing.
Yeah, I have stories like that also. Yeah, very funny stories.
Yeah,
actually,
so it's that's a fun thing about traveling and seeing the world, and that's why like now I'm going through PCT and I'm slowly deflating, right? But I've gone through that before when I traveled. I did one cycle. I traveled. I went from 92 kilos to 72.
Really?
Yeah, there's no protein, no exercise for a whole year. All this street.
I still think I wouldn't have gone on PCT if I was you, but I don't think it's the make or break kind of thing. I know you want to just you want a full reset and everything.
I was thinking, to be honest, I'm so busy, and I was thinking about stopping training for a while. That was in the back of my. Yeah, I'm too busy, man. I feel guilty.
I'm very busy too. Yeah, it's crazy.
I feel guilty for going to the gym. So that was in the back of my head. So I was doing push-pull legs on Monday, Wednesday, Friday for a while, and it was enough to maintain my size. And then, I thought about maybe I should stop training, just reduce the dose to 100 milligrams of test per week, and just focus on this business, get all these ebooks out the door, which takes so much time, way more than I expected it to be.
Which you didn't send me, by the way, the thumbnail for the ebooks.
So I didn't? Okay, my bad.
No, I was going to post it. Yeah.
I'll send it here. So it's, so I think about it. And then, I was diagnosed with non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. And I was like, okay, that's my cue card. Off cycle, I was still trained, but I'm not, when I'm like mentally off cycle, I know that I'm not going to invest so much into bodybuilding. Like right now, I'm training at 75 capacity. If I miss a meal, I don't mind. If I miss a workout, I don't mind. It's not a priority. That's the hidden reason of doing PCT. I don't want the bodybuilding to be a priority right now. So maybe this is my exit.
Yeah, join the club. We're
I should come on with you and Nick Trigili instead of the former bodybuilders that are now wearing black.
Yeah, exactly. The former bodybuilders
to not look so big anymore.
Okay, but listen, Steve, I know it's your morning and you're having a great time in the morning, but it's late here. And if I don't
sorry. So we went over everything, I guess. So it's going to be a little bit of a semi-fasting, catching up podcast.
Gotcha. You know what we should do? We should have because you've been on mine 3 times. I think we should do it back and forth, and I think you should come up with a name for the series.
Yeah. Okay. Give me a few days.
I'll leave it on you.
So my cognition is a little bit down. I'm not as creative as I should be.
All right.
For sure. Thanks so much for coming on. I'm sure it will lead to a ton of questions in the comment fields, but I'll answer them for everybody, so we don't miss anything about fasting.
Thank you, Steve. It's a pleasure. It's really a pleasure.
For sure. I'll talk to you soon again. Thanks for coming.
We'll talk soon. Okay. Bye-bye.